I started stripping with her. She was a stripper, but she did private parties. Private parties, you make a lot more money. There is possibilities of extracurricular things, which is more money, obviously. Hello, my name is Brandy, and a little bit about me. I was born in San Jose, California, to my parents, and I had an older sister at the time. And my dad, shortly after I was born, I was probably like 4 or 5 years old when he decided that he wanted to see men. He didn't want to be married to my mom anymore, and he wanted to just start dating men. And that was back in the 80s, and it was, you know, there was a lot of stuff going on, gay pride going on, and a lot of things going on in San Francisco, which was very close to where I grew up. And in fact, we would go to San Francisco for the gay pride parades when I was younger with him. That was fun. But yeah, my mom couldn't afford to live by herself, so my mom and dad lived together as not as a family, but as roommates. Um, my mom and I shared a room, and my dad slept in the living room. And his dates would come and pick him up and take him out and stuff. And some of his friends were even my babysitters sometimes. And it was a weird dynamic, but it was kind of cool to have both my mom and dad there. And they had a better relationship after they got divorced, obviously. And yeah, shortly after that, my mom decided to come out as a lesbian, which was, very like I was already used to it from my dad, but I was like, "Are you kidding me? What is this going on?" And it was really weird for me growing up. If people knew about it, I got made fun of a lot about it. Whatever, whatever. It is what it is. Kids are dumb and whatever. But so that was even weirder though. Having my mom, I still had two moms and two dads, like other divorced kids' parents. Were kids with divorced parents had, except that my two moms lived together and my two dads lived together. Um, so yeah, that was interesting. But my dad actually he met this guy shortly after he came out, and he lived with this man until a couple years ago when he passed away. And that was my dad too. And those two guys were everything to me. They were everything. My mom and I never really had a good relationship. She was very mentally abusive, um, very physically abusive, to the point where I would have bruises and stuff on my arms, legs, whatever. She drank when I was little, and she would go out and leave me with a lot of different people. One guy in particular, when I was 7, it was after my dad had moved out, um, and I was like 7 years old. It was my older sister's boyfriend, and he had came over to stay the night at our house, so that he could watch me because my mom was going out. And I was going to bed. I went to bed, and then when I woke up, I felt his hands on me, and in places that they shouldn't have been on me. And I was 7 years old, and I didn't know what he was doing, but I knew that that wasn't what he was supposed to be doing. And he touched me for a while, and I kept moving away from him, but not letting him know that I was awake, because I thought that if I was awake, it would be worse, you know. And I kept going until he finished what he had intended to start, and I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. I was scared. I didn't move. I just let it happen, and then I felt guilty because I didn't try to stop it. But he was a grown man, and I was 7 years old, and you know, I didn't think that. there was a chance for me to stop him, you know. My mom and dad used to always tell me, you know, do what your elders tell you, you know. So I then wrote a note to my mom and telling her that what had happened, and I left it for her to find it when she got to work, and it was in her briefcase to go to work. And then went on with my regular day, you know, and when I got home, the police were at my house and they were arresting him and they were questioning me about the charges and what happened, and they wanted me to come down and make a statement and everything. That was the first time that I was raped, and that was the first time I had to go to court to testify against someone who did that to me. And I remember my mom didn't come into the courtroom with me, but she was there in the waiting room where I waited until it was my turn to get up there. But my dad stayed in the audience so that he could be in the courtroom with me, and he was in the back row, and he was making smiley faces at me and kind of silly faces and blowing kisses and stuff to me, trying to comfort me while I'm up there. And I just remember that being like the sweetest thing, you know, that I could have ever needed or wanted at that time, you know. And it sucks because I hate Valentine's Day now because I had to go to court 3 times during this trial. And the last and final time when he got convicted, was Valentine's Day party at my school, and 7-year-old, you know, like one of the first times I'm having like a real party that I can remember, you know, first grade, and I had to leave to go and testify against this guy, you know, and tell everyone for the umpteenth time what happened and how I felt and, you know, all this stuff and whatever. And so I hit Valentine's Day now, and I guess all of my future boyfriends or my next husband is very lucky because they don't have to give me no gifts. They don't have to give me no gifts for Valentine's Day because I hate it. We just don't celebrate it. Just one more thing you don't have to remember. No, just kidding. But like I just have always felt like whatever and about Valentine's Day because of that. But the good thing is that he went to jail, and my sister, who wasn't the smartest person in the world, she had people that were in jail and they beat the crap out of him because he, you know, raped a little kid, and that is not cool at all. So they beat the hell out of him. He spent most of his time in infirmary and under like lockdown because every time he would get out, he would get beat up or he would get shanked or whatever. Like they tortured his ass. So that was a good thing. You know, I felt like justice may have been served in a way, anyways, because he only got a 1.5-year sentence for that, and I think that's crap, but it's okay. So that was when I was 7, and that was a hard time. Things changed in my life. Like I went to a lot of therapy and found out about all these things, and like, you know, it intrigued me to like want to do it more times, but it also freaked me out because, you know, that hurt and it was not good, you know. So I think that like it just changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I felt like, why didn't anyone ever tell me about this? And, you know, I felt like it was still my fault. You know, I felt a lot of guilt for it. And like my parents didn't know what to do to help me with that. I don't think. And like my dad tried the best he could to kind of like just avoid it and not talk about it. And let's just think about happy things so that we don't, you know, worry about it, because I was in therapy, so I talk about it enough, right? But I guess I really felt like I just wanted their support, you know, so that they knew, like they told me that it wasn't my fault, but it's okay. I got over it. I learned how to cope with this trauma. Trauma changes you a lot, and it builds up these walls, and you learned all these great coping mechanisms that aren't the greatest, but they serve a purpose, I guess, for a time. And learning those things sucks, let me tell you. And so, yeah, I remember when I was 8 years old, there was a really big earthquake in California where I lived. And it was like an 8.5 earthquake. And I was a latchkey kid, so I was home by myself. And the earthquake happened, and a lot of roads collapsed, a lot of buildings collapsed, and there was a lot of traffic and wreckage, and people crashing and falling into the ground, and whatever. A lot of the highways, the freeways were collapsed and everything. My mom worked hella far away, and she couldn't get to me. Then my dad ran to me, ran 10 miles to me from his work because he couldn't drive and stuff. And that was a really scary time, but it was a really great time that my dad was there for me, because my dad was an awesome guy. And as much as I rebelled against him and all of his rules and stuff, he is the only reason why I'm the person I am today. So when I think I was 10, was the second time that I was raped. And that was by a neighbor kid. And it was really tragic because my older sister was riding her bike around in the backyard, and he had took me into this open garage that we had, and took me behind one of the cars, and he started to rape me. And I'm screaming for my sister, and he's saying, "Oh no, I'm tickling her, I'm tickling her." And so she's just riding her bike. "Oh, stop it, Brandy, stop it. You're making a big deal out of nothing, whatever." And so then I just stopped, and I went numb. And that was horrible. That my sister didn't even believe me, and my sister just sat there and did nothing. Thankfully, it didn't last long, and I went in, and since she didn't believe me, I didn't tell anyone else for a really long time, until my mom finally said, "Why aren't you playing with so and so next door anymore?" Because he was my friend. And yeah, so I finally told her, and she did believe me, and we pressed charges against him too. He was the same age as me. We were 10 years old. Why do these kids even know about that stuff? That's what's really sad about the whole thing is, why did kids know about this? Kids raping kids? That's ridiculous. And so yeah, that was the second time. And at that point, I felt like that's all that I was good for. I started already feeling that at 10 years old, because I was never good enough for my mom. Never good enough for my mom. She made me feel like I was a burden to her and whatever. And what's the funniest part about it is that I have two sisters. One is my older sister. She's 7 years older than me. She has a biological child who my mom adopted after my older sister got her taken away. So she's legally my sister. She's biologically my niece. And she was my sister since she was 2 years old, and she's 30 now. So she's my sister too. But there's a big difference, age difference. She's 12 years younger than me, and my sister's 7 years older than me. And there was a lot of divide with all of us. And my mom was just a very non-participating parent at all. She always just wanted us to do stuff for her. She was always yelling at us that we weren't doing stuff right. Please get this, or no, she didn't say please. Get this for me, do this for me, clean this for me, whatever. And she was on disability most of my life. She got on disability when I was probably in middle school, and so she hasn't worked since then, and she hasn't done nothing since then. And to be honest, I don't know where she even is right now, or if she's still kicking and breathing. Last time I heard, she was in a assisted living facility in Virginia. So I don't know. Because me and her had some really rough times. When I was 17, she and I got into a fight over, my boyfriend was mowing the lawn. It was really hot outside, and he came in for a break after doing half of it to cool off and to get some water. And she got mad and she started going off, and I stepped in, and then she grabbed me by my head and slammed my head into the metal bed frame in my room and hit my temple, and like almost knocked me out. And I kicked her in her bad knee. She had a bad knee, and she went down. And then my older sister jumped on me, and all while my boyfriend is sitting there like looking like, oh my god, not stepping in or nothing. And I'm like, bro, like, me and you need to talk now, because I'm doing this for you and you're not even helping me, whatever. But he finally like got my sister off of me, and then we left. We grabbed all that we could and we left. And like, that was when I was 17, and I left home basically at that time. I went and stayed with my godmother for a little while, and then I went and stayed with my dad. And when I went and stayed with my dad, I turned 18 while I was there. And once I turned 18, I ran away from home. Basically, I left to go to LA, and from San Jose, California, you know, like middle of California, I went to go to LA. And I didn't tell him that I was leaving. I just upped and left one day. My friend came with me. She was 17 though at the time. She was my best friend. And so basically, you know, legally, I kidnapped her because I was 18 and she was 17, and we went to LA together. But we went, and she did get caught. And when she got caught, we were there for like I think 4 days before she got caught, because she messed up and told her mom she called her mom from a payphone, and her mom had caller ID, and you know, found out she was in LA. So anyways, I saw her get caught. I dipped and I took off running. Didn't get caught because they were trying to look for me for like kidnapping. I knew her mom was going to charge me for kidnapping because her mom hated me. She thought I was a bad influence on her daughter and whatever, even though like we did do bad stuff together, but it was not just me, it was her too. And you know, we did get into a lot of trouble together, and we did do a lot of drugs together. And yeah, that was probably not a good idea, but you know, it is what it is. She was actually one of the first people that I did cocaine with. I started smoking cocaine when I was in high school. I think it was the end of freshman year is when I started doing that. Yeah, that was fun. Kind of skipped over that part, didn't I? Yeah, I started doing cocaine, meth. I would slam it, I would snort it, I would smoke it, I would do whatever. I got really good grades in high school because I would stay up really late at night and just study because I had nothing to do, because I was freaking on meth, just freaking not sleeping, not eating, not drinking, not nothing. I would always try to make myself drink some orange juice, so at least I'm getting vitamin C, you know, and at least that made me feel better that I was getting something, right? But yeah, that was a thing in high school. My mom never even knew that I did all that stuff. Like, she acted really shocked when it did come out, like years later after I was an adult, and you know, there was nothing she could do about it anymore. You know, there was a lot of tough times between me and my mom. My mom, when I was 15, I had a really bad breakup. You know, it was my first love, one I was going to marry. Oh my gosh, she was going to be my, you know, knight in shining armor. Yeah, right. You know, of course, when you're 15, that feels real. You know, you don't know what real love is, but you think you do. And so you fall in love and it doesn't turn out right. It never does. And plus, this guy was literally 18 years old and I was 15, so like it, was illegal anyways, but he broke up with me, and I had a bad day at school or whatever, and I had all these things just piled up on me, on my 15-year-old little soul, all the burdens that I had and all the stress. And I tried to commit suicide. I was a cutter before. And at that time, like I cut up my legs at first, just because I was a cutter and I wanted to feel like the pain, to erase the emotional pain going on at the moment. And so then that wasn't satisfying me enough. And I have all these scars up here on my legs. And so that wasn't cutting it. So I did this. I don't know if it's hard to see on camera, because it's a pretty good faded scar, thank goodness. But I do wear it proudly because it reminds me that God has a purpose for me. If he didn't, I would have left then. But I had cut my arm, and I cut the vein really good, and like every heartbeat, like blood was squirting out. It was covered in blood. I had shorts on. Blood was everywhere from the cuts on my legs, squirting all over me. I walk into I'm going in and out of consciousness first, and I feel like this is not gonna happen, so I need to, get help. So I went into my mom's room, and she was on the computer, and I said, "Mom," and she looked up, and I said, "I had an accident." And she dead ass looked at me and said, "Hold on, let me save this really quick." On her computer. She wanted to make sure that her precious little document was saved, And it was a new computer. We had just gotten a computer. Like, computers weren't in everyone's, houses at the time, and it was like, super new. And she was excited, I guess, that we even had one, right? She called a taxi to take me to the hospital. We didn't have a car, but I don't know. I feel like an ambulance probably would be the wiser choice. Like, if it was my kid covered in blood, I would probably have called an ambulance, not a taxi. But that's that. The taxi driver was freaking out when he pulled up, and I was covered in blood, and I had a towel wrapped around me. And he's like, "Why didn't you call an ambulance?" And whatever. And so the good thing, the hospital was just a short drive away. But she put me in the 72-hour hold, the psych hold. And when we got to the hospital, like once we got settled, and like they had cleaned up everything, and they were waiting to transport me to the psych ward, she went down to like hug me, and she whispered in my ear, and she said, "If my shit didn't save right, it's your ass." Meaning her document on the computer. And like that's some heavy shit right there. Like, it's the one person in your life that is supposed to love you is your parents, like your mom especially. And like, how could you just be so cold-hearted to the person that you gave life to? Like, I didn't get it. I didn't understand it, and I just like hated her at that moment. And I've never been able to forget how I felt at that moment. And sometimes right now, like even when I'm talking about it, I feel that heaviness come upon me, and that pain, and that like rejection, and just knowing that everything that she has ever said to me leading up to that was true. Like, that she didn't love me, and that she didn't freaking want to have me, and that she always thought I was a burden. She always thought I was a problem. And like, all these things have like built up so many like walls that I have, and it sucks. It really sucks. But I also have like, fortunately gone to a lot of therapy too, and like, done a lot of like cognitive thinking, exercises and stuff. And I'm like learning how to to love myself and, you know, be more myself and be more of a kind person to not just other people but to myself, you know. So all these things have taught me a lot of things, which is good. But I had a, you know, like I say all this to lead up to, like, I had like a rough, horrible life, horrible childhood. You know, a lot of people have, and I'm not saying that you should pity me or feel sorry, you know. But like it turned into so many different things for me. I turned to drugs because I thought that, you know, I could escape that way. I could, you know, finally feel different about my life, and I could put on this fake facade for people and be like all cheerful and happy, even though like inside I'm freaking dying and, you know, I just want to whatever. And I turned to guys because, first of all, I was, you know, presented with that very early in life, you know, way earlier than anyone should be. You know, I turned to guys, of course, thinking that that was like the way to happiness, and that was whatever, whatever. And then, you know, that's obviously not how it works in life, and especially when you're young and dumb and you just whatever. There was a lot of time where, you know, I was very sexualized. I did a lot of things that were stupid and, you know, things that I'm not proud of or whatever. But it is what it is. You know, I don't ever blame that on my upbringing though, but I think that it molded me to be at the molded me into the choices that I made for myself. I'm not blaming whatever, you know, I'm like, not that, but it did definitely make me the person I am now. And being able to overcome those things and be even better now is like, you know, just a joy. And I'm so proud that I was able to come over those things. But yeah, so I went to LA with my friend. Getting back to that, she got arrested. She went back home, and I did go see her one time since then, but it was like years later, like after she had a kid and whatever. But like I got into so much more trouble there than I ever could imagine. But you know, I thought it was the fast life that I wanted to live. You know, that was the gangster life that I wanted to live, and the, you know, I wanted the hood rats. I wanted to be a hood rat, and I wanted the, you know, the kingpins, the lords, to, you know, whatever. But not knowing all the consequences that goes into that. You know, I did a lot of like drugs. Oh my gosh, like I got into coke, I got into meth, I got into heroin for a short time. I tried like shrooms a couple of times. I dropped acid once, and I think that's it. But yeah, meth was my thing. Meth was my best friend. Meth was my all in all. And since I was a girl, I didn't have to pay for it most of the time, you know, especially if their, you know, favors were done. So that kind of like played into a lot of my sexual past, you know, my, like, I felt like that was what guys needed, that was what guys wanted, and you know that if you didn't give it to them, they weren't gonna like you, and then where are you gonna be, you know, whatever. And unfortunately, like, I see that in so many girls, they feel like that's the only way that you can show them love. And if you don't do that, then that means that you don't love them. But if they do it, then that means they love you. And that's not the case. That's not it. That's not ever how it goes. You know, it never works out. Never works out. And the one who waits and the one who is patient and the one that is kind is the one. But, you know, not knowing right from wrong in that sense, because my parents never talked to me about it. They never, you know, they never showed me good examples of loving relationships. They never taught me about any relationship things. My mom didn't even talk to me about my period. When I started my period, I didn't know what was going on with me. I thought I was dying. I had kind of heard about it a little bit because I was 11 years old. So I had kind of heard about it, but I wasn't sure about it, and I thought I was dying. And she legit, I woke her up and told her what was going on. She said, go put a tampon in and go back to bed. And I was like, what the hell is a tampon? I don't even know what a tampon is. you know. But that was how I learned stuff, on the fly. So my parents never talked to me about sex, and because I was introduced to sex so early on in life, and then again, I think that I had a hypersexuality, and I learned very quickly that I could get what I want using my assets, um, and it became like a hustle a little bit in a sense. Sometimes when things were going on, it is what it is, and you have to do what you have to do, especially if you have kids, But I met my kids' dad when I went to LA. So my first daughter is 22 now, and she and her fiance live with me. I love them to death. Sometimes we bump heads. A lot of times we bump heads. But at the end of the day, she's my firstborn, my rainbow baby. She's definitely someone I'm really proud of. But like I said, she's too much like me, and we get on each other's nerves. But I got pregnant with her when I was 18. I had her right before my 19th birthday. Or no, right, had her when I was 19, right before my 20th birthday. Sorry, in 2000. And her dad and I were together for a short time, and he was very abusive, physically, very physically abusive. His favorite thing was to backhand me in the mouth, for saying something, off color, or something he didn't like, or laughing at something that wasn't funny to him, or being disrespectful to him in any way, or even gasping or sighing or making some kind of a noise that he didn't like, in response to something that was going on. He would pop me. That was his favorite thing. And he really had me under his spell. I really felt with him like he was so good at making me feel like I had to have him, and that no one else was going to be able to be there for me, and no one else was going to do the things that he can do. And he was really good at, making the good times really good, and then the bad times would be so freaking bad. But then he would come and swoop me up, and, oh, I'm so sorry, here's a gift for whatever. Like, he gave me a nice real leather purse that was beautiful, and it was a nice purse. I carried it everywhere with me. It was a good size, whatever. And I remember one time that when he got really mad, he snatched it and just ripped it in half, and like all my stuff just threw up. And it was like a good leather bag. And like this dude he was a big black dude, real big black dude. And yeah, that's the kind of guy he was. He's really, really physically violent and very mind fuckish. So my middle girl's dad, I also knew him at the same time. The two of them were actually in the same halfway house because they were both felons. And why not hang out with felons? That's the way to get to the gangster life, right? Um, that's what my goal was, right? That's what I thought I wanted to do. But so I met my middle girl's dad, and he saw that my oldest daughter's dad was abusive and, crazy and whatever, and he tried to take me away. He tried to save me, and kidnap me, basically, and like help me get away. And it worked. It really worked. And I don't know why, but I was dumb, and I went back to him, though. I went back to him, and I don't know why. Like, you just get into these grooves, and like, you know that you're worthless, so why would you deserve anything better? Like, that's how I felt. I knew that I was worthless because my mom had told me that my whole life. Society had told me that my whole life. You know, teachers have told me that my whole life. Everyone had told me that my whole life. And yes, there were positive influences in my life. Like my dad was amazing, but my mom and dad were divorced. So I didn't see my dad very often. My dad had rules and he had regulations and he had curfews and stuff. And I didn't want to deal with that. So I stayed with my mom, who let me do whatever I wanted to do. As long as I got good grades, she didn't care. She didn't notice anything. She didn't care. So everyone my whole life had been telling me how worthless I am. So of course I'm going to believe that, you know. At the time too, my dad was also a priest. He is a priest. He's now a bishop. But yeah, he was a priest, and he was very religious. Obviously, he was a Catholic religious guy. So Catholics are really strict, and they're really stern, and like there's a whole bunch of stand up and kneel down and pray and stand up again and kneel down and pray and speak in Latin and say this, you know, phrase in Hebrew and whatever. And it was really strict, and like I felt like it was a nightmare going there on the weekends, and because of course I'd have to go to church, and but it was good because I think that it definitely planted seeds in me that have now become like part of my daily life. So that was good. He was planting seeds, and that was in the middle of my chaos, and I just didn't let it grow at the time. But so back to my first daughter's father. He finally like gave it he hurt me so bad one day that he choked me until I passed out. And when I woke up, he choked me again. And he threw the mattress on top of me and like made me sit underneath the mattress, and I'm like claustrophobic. So he like pinned me in a little like triangle with the bed frame and the mattress and the floor. And he made me stay there, and like, knowing that was like horrible, that was like torture for me. And he busted my face that day as well. And I guess that's why he started choking me, because he really thought, I felt like he thought he was gonna knock me out by hitting me, and he like about did. But then he choked me till I passed out. And so that was when I decided that I was gonna leave him. I wasn't gonna do this anymore. And so I left him and I went to this guy, this kingpin that I knew. He was a big time kingpin. I was getting my drugs from him and being very flirtatious with him, and I would get a lot of things from him for free and all that good stuff. Assets go a long way. And so actually, I didn't go to him. I remember now, I'm sorry. So me and my daughter's father was out, and we were at the like the restaurant bar in the bottom of a hotel. So we were just chilling in there, and the kingpin came in, and he saw us. And so he freaking knew what was going on. He knew the dude was messing around, because my other daughter's father had told him. And so he went and he snatched me and he took me away from Danny, and we drove off. So then we get to his house, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm excited because I'm like free. I am not gonna go back this time, because I knew that I had already went back once before and I wasn't gonna do it again. Like, no, like I gotta be smarter than that. So I'm like, cool. He's gonna help me get away, and we're gonna do whatever. Well, dude flips the script on me, and he is now not letting me go anywhere by myself. He's telling me that I have to stay there with him. He's telling me that I'm going to start working for him. He's telling me that it's only a matter of time before he breaks me. all this stuff. And I was like, wow, I just got kidnapped into a worse situation, probably, because I was going to start working for him, and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant at all. I had a feeling, but I wasn't sure. So thankfully, it wasn't horrible. He didn't want me to do anything. Like, he wasn't making me work. I guess he was trying to break me. So I was kept in his room, couldn't even go to the bathroom by myself, whatever. So a couple days like that went on. Wasn't, we just were not, he was nice to me. It was weird. It wasn't horrible, but I couldn't leave. But I knew I needed to get out of there because there was going to come a day where he was going to break me. That's what he kept saying to me. Don't worry, I'm going to break you. And he's like, I have the patience. And, he's like, once I break you, you're mine, and blah, blah, other stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. And, so after a couple of days, I got him to start drinking. He was Cuban, and Cubans drink a lot, and we were drinking, and I asked him if I could drink some, and he was like, yeah, drink. So I was like drinking. I was half drinking and half not drinking. I was like pretending to drink more than it looked like. I wasn't trying to get drunk, but I wanted him to get drunk, and I wanted him to get so drunk that he passed out. My plan was to leave. So we were drinking, and once he got to a good amount, like, I was pouring myself like water, and he didn't even notice the difference. And we were drinking tequila, and yeah, so he got really drunk, and I told him, I was like, hey, I'm gonna take your car and I'm gonna go around the corner and I'll be right back. And he's like, yeah, okay, have whatever. And he like passed out. So I took his keys, got in his Cadillac, and where did I go? Right back to the first daughter's dad. Yeah, that was dumb. That was dumb. But I freaked out. I had freaked out so bad about like what the kingpin was trying to make me do. And I realized, like, I can't be alone. I can't be out here by myself. Like, where else am I supposed to go? So I was dumb and went right back to him. And it sucked. It was dumb. So we take the car, get all our stuff. We take the car, and we're going to go to a chop shop. But he can't take it to the chop shop until like 2 days later. So we lay hella low for a little bit, and we're going like nowhere, and we're hiding out. We're parking in low places and like people's garages and stuff, and like, just whatever. And we then are on our way to the chop shop like the day of it, and we are driving down the street, and this guy that knows the kingpin is in the next car. And oh my gosh, he was trying to run us off the road, and he's like, oh my god, I'm calling the cops on you, you better stop, you better pull over, blah blah blah, whatever. And so I'm freaking out, and Danny is driving. My first daughter's father is driving, and he is like stopping at yellow lights like an idiot. But I mean, like, really stopping at a yellow light. We're like almost in a police chase right now. So then it becomes a police chase because dude calls the cops, of course. And so now we're running from the cops in LA, which is, police chase city. So we are running from the cops, and I tell him, stop stopping at the yellow lights. And so he runs a red light, and we're in a Cadillac, and there's two trucks going like this, and the end of one is here and the end of one is here, and they're like this, and he goes in between them and hits both of them and totals the front end of the Cadillac. Complete trash. So we grab our stuff and we start running. We take off running. We ran through a what was it? A garage. We ran through a garage where they were working on cars and stuff, and ran through their property, had to jump a fence. I ripped my pants jumping the fence, and we ran into this parking lot that was like an underground parking lot, and we hid behind some cars, thinking they're not gonna find us. We ran like it was a good distance. Like, it sounds maybe like it wasn't, but it was a good distance. And plus, it was in a direction that I don't think that they would have thought of, because we jumped a fence and we ran through a whole business and stuff. So they found us because they had dogs. They saw me first, and they said, "Come out with your hands up, or we're going to release the dogs." And I looked at him, and they couldn't see him, but they could see me, because I could see them this way, and I could see him this way, and like they couldn't see him. So I was like, I gotta go. I'm not gonna get bit by a dog, that's for sure. Like, I was so scared that I was gonna get bit by a dog, man. So we went to jail. I still didn't know that I was pregnant with my first daughter at that time. But I went to jail for my charge. My official charge at the end of the day was just felony joyriding, which, like, they made that shit up and just made it whatever, because they gave me a felony charge. They wanted it to be a felony charge because I was with a POR, parolee on the run, because I didn't even know he was on the run. He was still living in the halfway house as far as I knew. But I guess he wasn't checking in with his parole officer, so he was the POR. So, but they gave me joyriding because I had the keys, and it was dumb. So I was in jail for 4 days. Wasn't, horrible. It sucked that I saw some shit go down that was not cool. Like, I saw this lady's baby die because she had a baby, and they wouldn't come in because this other bitch wouldn't get in her pod. And I'm not sure why her baby came so fast, but she like coughed and it was there basically, and they would not come in because this one girl wanted to be a jerk, and it's so cold in there that it's crazy. But the guy that owned the car, the kingpin, he didn't press charges against me at the time, and so I only got 4 days. And shortly after that, I found out I was pregnant. And I knew that it was the guy's baby, and so that sucked because he was in jail because he was the parolee on run. So he, got a charge for that against his parole, plus, running from the police and endangering the lives of other people and all this stuff. He got all the goods. He had other kids, and I was dumb and even like brought his kids to see him while he was in jail, because I by then knew that I was pregnant with his kid, and even though he was abusive, I was dumb and whatever. But my girls' dad convinced me that, that wasn't the life I needed to live, and that he would be better. And it was better at first. It was better at first. We had my daughter, my oldest daughter, and she did not come out looking half black. She came out looking very Hispanic. So my first kid's daughter, or my first daughter's father is black. My two middle kids' father is Mexican, and my son's father is Panamanian. So yeah. Anyways, so my first daughter, when she was born, she came out very pale skinned, very dark, straight hair, and she looked very Hispanic. And my first daughter's father genuinely believed that I was cheating anyways, because why would I, have been with this guy already and stuff, with whatever, right? Even though we all knew each other for a long time, and we all were friends for a long time, so I knew this guy. It wasn't just some random guy. But anyways, it's funny actually, because this guy, my second daughter's father, he was a lot older than me, and I think that's why my first daughter's father was like, "Why are you with him?" And it was funny too, because I told my dad, I was like, "So, Dad, I'm with this guy. He's gonna take care of the baby with me, blah blah blah." and he's older than me. And my dad goes, well, as long as he's not like 20 years older than you. And I was like, yeah, he's 18 years older than me. And my dad just like was silent for a while. It was on the phone, so I couldn't see his face or anything. And he said, well, it's not 20. And I was like, yeah, it's not 20 years. So yeah, my second relationship, or my second girl's dad's 18 years older than me. He's old. He's really old because I'm old now. But you know, I had parental issues. I had, you know, whatever issues, acceptance issues, and you know, his family accepted me, and he accepted me, and you know, had some daddy issues a little bit, you know, but it's okay. So anyways, he convinced me to leave my first one alone, especially, you know, because of the abuse and whatever. And he used to always tell me, you know, I would never do that, and you know, a real man doesn't hit a woman, and all this stuff and whatever. And like, it was my second daughter wasn't even born before he started hitting me too. He started hitting me too. But when my oldest daughter was born, her dad wanted to come see her to make sure that it wasn't his kid, because he would know, you know. And I know for a fact, because I know what I was doing, but he swore up and down that I was already sleeping with this other one. So he came out, looked at my daughter, and said, "Oh, that's not my kid," because, she, like I said, she was very pale like me, and she had black hair, and it was really straight. So it was good. He decided to leave me alone. I was with the next dude, and he signed the birth certificate for my oldest daughter, so legally he's hers, but biologically we know that she's not. But yeah, as time grew out, it was funny because all of that beautiful straight black hair that she had fell out, and she was really bald for like 2 years of her life, and then all of a sudden she had all of these curls, these super tight curls just everywhere, and it was so cute. And she still to this day has tight little like ringlets, like this big, all around her head. It's adorable, and I love her. And but yeah, so I had her, and like I said before, my second one, who is just 23 months younger than her, who is my first, who is like biologically their dad. That was her biological dad. He was hitting me, and because I was broken and damaged so much from everyone before, just felt like, I guess that's it. That's what I'm used to. It's what I deserve. You know, who's gonna want me now? Because now I have kids, and you know, I have to do what I have to do for my kids. Um, while I was pregnant with my first daughter, um, their dad went to jail. He was on parole as well. That's how he knew the first baby daddy, because they were in the same halfway house that they, you know, transitioned to. And so he went to jail, and it was a violation of his parole because he had drugs on him, because we were meth addicts, hardcore meth addicts. I don't think that there was a lot of days that went by that we didn't do that. And, you know, yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And like I said, I had kids. And so when I was pregnant with her, things slowed down. His family helped out a lot with my rent and stuff, because I had a toddler. She wasn't even 2 years old yet. She wasn't even, you know, she was still a baby, and I was pregnant. Couldn't work. So his family helped out a lot, and it was good. And I did get like welfare and stuff, so you know, I was able to supplement some things, whatever. And he was only in there for a short time. Like, he was only in there for I think it was for 6 months. That time, it might have been like 4 to 6 months. I don't remember. And so it was quick in and out for whatever. And as soon as I had my second, or he got out right before I had her. So he was there at her birth, which is, I guess, whatever. It was good. And he was actually really good, like, partner to have a kid with. Like, he was really helpful, and it was really good, actually. I was actually quite surprised. But then after that, like, that was it. It was over. He didn't want anything else to do with it. He was, that wasn't his problem anymore. But he was a really good person to be next to you while you're having a baby, and attentive dad. And then, so after my second one was born, we, were good for a little bit. We had our fights all the time. He was physical. He was a drug addict. I was a drug addict. We got into a lot of physical fights. I remember this one time I was super sick, super, super sick. And, like, I was dope sick, and I was sick, like, physically. I had, like, the flu or a cold or something, and I just wanted some soup, and we didn't have any soup. And I was just begging him, please just go give me some soup. And I got on my knees in front of him, and he was sitting on the couch, and I got between his legs, and I was begging him, please just give me some soup. And he said, no, get the fuck off of me, because I'm not going nowhere. And I punched him as hard as I could in his balls. And that, his reaction was to just punch me in the face, punch me right in the side of the face. And he about knocked me out that time. That was kind of like the beginning of the end, I think. It takes a hard time. It's a really hard time. And, you hear so many people say, why don't you just leave him? Why don't you just leave him? Whatever, whatever. There's so many variables to that. Like, there's so many reasons why women stay. And there's so many reasons why, we have been brainwashed to feel like nothing else is going to be better. So I might as well stay with what I know. And, like, it's such a freaking hard concept to get past and to move on, especially when it's just been embedded in your life, like, all the time. It's been there since, like, birth, probably. I only remember my mom saying bad things. Like, I don't remember her ever going to any of my school events, any of my open houses, any of my, concerts for chorus. I don't remember her going to any of that stuff. And all I remember is all the times that she told me I wasn't good enough. All the times that she told me that I would never be good enough, that I would never be better than what I am right now, and that I would never go anywhere, and I would never amount to anything, and blah, 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 blah. And from all that negativity coming from the one person in your life that is supposed to love you, your mother, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Like, so I had a really hard time being a mother because I didn't know, like, how to love someone. No one had ever really taught me that. I guess in a way my dad taught me that a lot, but I was so rejected against it because I didn't want the rules and I didn't want the regulations to go along with love. And so I didn't allow him to love me more than he did, but because he did love me, sometime I did learn it a little bit. And I've taken that, and I've also, like, started going to church and believing in, like, the Holy Father and how he loves us and how he wants us to be parents, and I've taken that and changed things, but having a mom that always pressed you down and that always, like, just beat you down, like, always just always. It's hard. It's hard when you become a mom because you don't know how to be. You have a lot of examples of how not to be, and that's great and dandy, but how do you be a mom? And especially, like, when I had girls, like, I was really nervous that I was going to screw them up. Like, my mom screwed me up. Like, I feel like she really screwed me up in a lot of ways. She really neglected me in a lot of ways, and she, like, made me believe so many lies about so many things. And yeah, I I knew that that wasn't the mom that I was gonna be. I knew that that was not gonna be the way that my kids were ever gonna feel. No matter what I had to do. And so I've done a good job with that. I feel like they all know that I have love for them. I know that we all fight and we all have our episodes of whatever, the episodes on the shit show that we we have. Um, but um, but there's nothing in the world that I wouldn't do for them, and it's always been because my mom was what she was to me. You know, after leaving the house at 17, when with the she hit my head on the bedpost, like that was something that I never forgot either. Like, you almost like killed me because she hit me right in my temple with metal sharp edge, you know. And like, that could have been really bad. And that's not a mom, it's not a mom at all. And so I vowed to not be that. I had a lot of examples of how not to be, you know. But anyways, back to my girls' dad. Um, he went to jail a second time. And it was really hard for me. Um, it was really hard for me that second time because I had two toddlers at that time, and I had no job. He was very traditional, didn't want me working, he wanted me to stay home with the kids, so he did provide enough for us all to be okay. We struggled sometimes, but that was also because we were drug addicts. We smoked a lot of our money, so it made us not have all of the things that we needed. But we always made it through, whatever. Um, he went to jail. And so that is when I started stripping. Um, I had a friend that used to come and buy stuff from us. We used to sell meth along with, smoking it, and to help, build our supply, or, supply us whatever we needed. And I started stripping with her. She was a stripper, but she did private parties. Like, she had originally started at a club, and she knew a club owner, and he's actually the one that got her into doing private parties. And private parties, you make a lot more money. There is possibilities of extracurricular things, which is more money, obviously. There's also a lot more danger in it because you don't have like all the employees at the club. But we always had a bodyguard with us, and it was me and her, and then we had a bodyguard. And we did parties of like, they were pretty small, like 10, 15 people, like nothing crazy, nothing wild. So the one bodyguard that we had, our driver, he was good. He was really good. He was a big dude. So he looked intimidating. So even just to look at him and like this, and just reminding everybody of his presence, it was good times. But I did that for a good long time. That time he was in jail for a year, and I started shortly after he went in, and I quit right before he got out because I knew that if he knew that I was doing that, then he would be really pissed off, even though I figured he was going to find out because it's not like I kept it a secret from everybody, and it was back before Facebook and all that stuff, thank God, but, still, word gets around. But because I was doing private parties and they were more like elite customers in the Hollywood area and everything, like nobody that we knew was going to see me. But anyways, um, I did that for a while. I did that, like, I had to get really drunk and I had to get really high to do that stuff. And yeah, there were some times that I like did those extracurricular activities to get the extra money, for extra things that my kids need when, school started or whatever. Back to school shopping is no joke, man, especially nowadays. Like, oh, don't even get me started. But like I I worked like one weekend a month, and I would be able to pay all my bills. And my mom would take care of my kids um, for that one weekend, and I would work, and then I would like be stacked, you know, just from like 3 or 4 parties. Usually, we did like 3 or 4 parties. Um, Sometimes even like from even during the week, but I would try to keep it to the first, to the last week of the month, um, and try not to do it every day, but at least 3 or 4 nights, um, a month, bro, a month. And like it was crazy. It was crazy, crazy how much money I was just able to stack. And like, if I didn't like my mom having my kids because I remember how my mom made me feel, and I knew that that's not what I wanted her to make my kids feel like. So I set boundaries, and I tried to leave it as minimal as possible. Like I could have worked every weekend if I wanted to, and stacked even more, and I probably should have, thinking back on it, but I didn't want my kids to be away from me very long. I was a stay-at-home mom like the whole time, and being away from my kids freaking sucked. As much as you hate your kids sometimes, and as much as you love to just go to the grocery store without them sometimes, like it's hard when they're gone. There was another time when I was stripping before I quit, and he was coming home, that one of the parties got really, really rowdy. And I remember the bodyguard jumped in. He was good. Like he tried to get everything situated quickly, um, but he got stabbed. He got stabbed like almost right away, like right at the beginning of all that. He was good though, but I remember like he lost a lot of blood. He got stabbed back here. He lost a lot of blood that day, and like we thought he was gonna die. Um, and that was shortly before I quit. And that was another reason why like it was easy for me to quit. I was like, damn, like this is getting really dangerous. And like I remember a few times where guys would get too rough, and they would like slap the shit out of us, and of course bodyguard would jump in and like whatever, but damage was already done. Like he already hit us. He already busted our face, our mouth, our eye. I'm surprised that I don't have more scars on my face, but like I don't. Uh, I was getting tired of that life, but it was still like so easy. It was so easy to just work those 4 days a month and be set with my kids and just chill with my kids, and like it was a good time. But you know, it was dumb. It was dumb. And I swore during that year, like I got super independent. I realized, hey, I can work even if it's doing this. Like I can do this. My mom, I was getting better with my mom, like because I'd seen changes in her that were different, and I had asked her to, do different things with my children, don't say this. Instead, can you please do this or whatever, and she was listening to me, and it was nice. And I saw that she was like, almost a good mom, I was really impressed with her. And so yeah, I was getting more adjusted to her watching my kids, and so I was like, I'm not gonna go back to him. He was abusive with me. Like we would fight so often, and like not just with like our hands, but we would fight with knives, and we would fight with objects, and he would backhand me on a regular basis, and it was just horrible time. And like I still just felt like stuck. I was gonna be a single mom with 2 kids, and that's not how it works. Who's gonna take care of me? Because at this point in my life, like I went from my dad taking care of me to this guy taking care of me to this guy taking care of me. And I didn't even know how. I didn't finish high school because I had a kid, and I didn't you know, well, I didn't not finish high school because I had a kid, but I had a kid and I didn't finish high school. And I really felt like I had no future. I had no nothing. I had to stay with him, like at least he was providing for us. At least he was there. He was making sure that everyone was fed. And we were still like, getting dope and all that stuff. So I just stayed with him, and he made me feel like nobody else was going to accept me. Nobody else was going to take care of my kids. Nobody else was going to do whatever. And so I told myself, this is it. I found myself, he was gone a year, and he's the type of dude that's like, if he's in there for a long time, he cuts everyone off. He doesn't write back to no one. He never sends anything to anyone. And that's what he did. He cut me off. He never called me. He never wrote me, nothing. I wrote him a letter all the time, every day. I tracked him down and, got his number and everything and wrote to him every day. And, well, not every day. Let me not lie, but every week at least. And we would always try to wait. Me and my two kids, we would wait by the mailbox. We got really acquainted with the mailman just to see if one day he wrote me back. He never did. It's whatever. But so I really thought I was done. When he got out on my birthday that year, August 28th. And I was coming home. My mom had called me on my cell phone and she said, "You need to come home. There's a surprise here for you." And I was like, "Oh, it's my birthday surprise. That's nice." So I get home and I'm super excited, and it was that guy in my living room, in my mom's living room. I was like, "What?" But what's messed up is that as soon as I saw his face, and as soon as he like went like this, like I went right back to dumb and couldn't feel like could live without him. After a whole year of not talking to him, not seeing him, after him abandoning me, and then thinking like I was nothing to him, and all this BS, talking about like he didn't want to he didn't want to write me letters or correspond with me because he didn't want to worry about me while he was in there. So instead, he just ignored me and made me worry about him, you know. So yeah, it was dumb. I went back to him. I went back to him after that. It was just dumb. It was really dumb. And I had another kid with him even more dumb. Even more dumb. We had now 3 kids. Um, our third daughter was born in July, and she's my bossy Leo. No, she's not really bossy, but she's a attention seeker Leo in the right company. Um, she she was really a blessing to me when she was born, and I just loved her. She was premature, um, so when she was born, it took 3 days for her to be born, and the whole time they were trying to stop labor because she was 6 weeks early, and I had already gotten into trouble because one of my early pregnancy in my early pregnancy, I had tested positive for meth. And so then I went into this program for women that tested positive for meth, or tested positive for any drugs, really. And I was tested every week after that. And so I had to go to the doctor's office every week, and I had to, do that. And then I had to go every month for my actual appointments and stuff, and all this whatever, this, that, and the third. and I had actually really gotten good. You know, I did stop using after that. Um, and I got myself clean, and it was good for a while. But when I had her, I was still nervous that, you know, there was going to be something, there was going to be traces of it, there was going to be something, you know, because why would she be coming early if there wasn't something like the drugs that I did is causing this? And I was freaking out. It was horrible. So, like, when she was born and she was fairly healthy, she had jaundice really bad. Um, and so she had to stay in the lights for a while. She was in the NICU for 2 weeks. But it was just because she had jaundice. She did really good. Like, she could breathe really good, and she was small. She was 6 pounds 9 ounces, but she did good, you know. And I I have like a special bond with that one. She's my emotional one, and like she feels like, I don't know, she feels home. She feels like home to me. Um, when we hug each other and stuff, and I'm not an affectionate person for the most part because my mom never was, my dad never was. I learned from a young age that like touch was sexual only, you know, like, or should be sexual only. Um, because no one ever touched me anytime else, you know. So I wasn't like that with my kids a lot. But now that I've gotten older, I see the benefits of hugging people, and I try to hug my kids more, you know, than I do, or than, you know, my parents did for me, anyways. But when we hug each other, like, it's a good feeling. It feels like home. Like I said, the homes were the hardest, and like we have that thing. And so she was born, and she got really bad um, with me and the ex. Um, we were getting really bad into drugs. Like, it was really bad at that time. We were probably doing like an 8 ball a day, I felt like, between the two of us. And I wasn't working because I had 3 kids, and he was working, and he was getting stressed out because he was always working. And then I was using all his money to go up my nose or in my veins. And so it was just a fight all the time. And like, we lived in this transient hotel, and the rooms were super small, and there was communal bathrooms. So like, it was basically like a hotel, but all you had in there in your little room was a sink and a mirror and then a little closet. And then down the hall was the bathroom that everyone in the hall used. You know, kind of like a dorm room, I guess, or whatever. And it was horrible. Let me tell you, it was horrible, especially with 3 little kids. Like, it was a tiny ass room, probably like 10 by 10. I had 3 kids and me and him in this room. But anyways, that's a whole another thing. Um, so one day, my mom was moving out, and because she was the manager of this building, she was moving out and not doing manager stuff anymore for that building. And so she was moving into a trailer, and we were helping her move, and she had a lot of stuff to move and whatever, whatever. But me and him were helping her move. And then also, like, my little sister was watching the little kids while we were all moving the stuff and loading the truck and everything. And then my mom actually was sitting at the new house, just sitting on her butt because she's old and disabled and whatever. I think it was just because she was lazy. But it really pissed off my girls' dad a lot. It really pissed him off a lot. And so he and I started fighting. We started fighting a lot. Plus, we were out of dope. So he was getting dope sick. And I told him, you know, that we were going to go as soon as we were done packing and unpacking the truck and whatever, whatever. And we got into it pretty good, and we were up in our room upstairs, and we started fighting, and I was like, you know what, fuck this. We need to move. We need to get this going. And he's like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to help anymore. You're on your own. And he started to walk away and walk out and walk down the stairs. So I went to grab his shirt, and he took me and pushed me down the stairs. Yeah. Heard a loud pop. Instantly felt my ankle on fire. It swelled instantly, like it had like a softball in my legs. Like I had pants that was covering it, but you could definitely tell that it was a huge thing. Started screaming. My friend ran up because there was one friend with us. She like, so the stairs were like this and then like this. So I just fell down like half of the flight of stairs, right? She came up this way and he just left. She said, "Oh my God, what happened?" and tried to stop him, and he pushed her and pushed her out of the way. And he left, and we didn't see him again that night. And she called the ambulance because it was clearly broken. Clearly broken. It was instantly like I said, swollen, bruised, whatever. My neighbor came and gave me a cold Capri Sun to put on it, which I thought was really not going to do a damn thing for anything, but it was nice. It wasn't even frozen. It was cold from the refrigerator. No, but I remember going, the ambulance guys came and they were so aggressive with my leg. My leg was hurting so bad and I was like delirious from pain. It hurt so bad. And they put it in like a cardboard box to kind of stabilize it in the car ride or the ambulance ride. And we went, and I feel like I remember they hit like every damn pothole in Los Angeles that day on the short drive it was from my house to the hospital. But turns out I got to the hospital and stuff, and I had dislocated my ankle so badly that it shattered my ankle. Um, so you kind of have like your foot in this here, and like this part came out so bad that it shattered all this and it shattered all this, and I have 8 screws and a metal plate in my ankle now because of it. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun. That was a day that I thought that was going to be it. That I couldn't be with him anymore. That no matter what happened, anything was better than that, you know? Because for him to just leave like that afterwards, like, obviously he didn't care, you know? I mean, doing it is one thing, right? You know, like, it could have been an accident or whatever. But then when he just left and, like, I didn't hear from him, obviously I felt like that was it, you know? So I didn't really have time to think about that, but when I woke up, I remember like being in the hospital. I remember them putting my ankle back, like having to hang my foot over the bed and having them maneuver it back into place. I remember that I was like out of it on pain meds at the time, and they did that instantly sober. Instantly sober. Um, it was the worst pain ever in my life. It was horrible. And then the next thing I remember was that they were getting me ready for surgery, and they were taking the nail polish off of my toenails, and I thought that was really weird. And then they made me sign my leg because they wanted to make sure that, you know, they got the right one. And then I remember waking up and having a morphine drip, and that was like the best drugs ever. Like, I wasn't really into downers. I was more of a meth girl. But it had been days now by this time that I, you know, I hadn't had meth, and I was like, you know, half an 8-baller a day type of, you know, snorter. Most of it was snorting. I'm surprised I have cartilage left in my nose. Um, but I had a morphine drip, and I remember them sending me home, and I was like, I was scared to death because I didn't know where I was going to go. and my mom was there, and she had had my kids, and she said that I could come and stay with her and my little sister. Mind you, again, like my mom and I have never really gotten along. There were some times where I trusted her a little bit more because I needed her to be there for my kids. But I still don't get along with her. I don't like her. Never have. And there's like no feelings for her anymore. Um, but on the other hand, like I have no place to go. I have nowhere to go. Nothing going for me. And now I have this broken leg that I just had surgery on that they're telling me is going to take months to heal. Months. So that was fun. I went and stayed with her, and my kids were there, and my little sister was there, and so it was good. Like they helped me out a lot because my little sister was there, and she would help out after work or after school rather, and she would be there most of the time. And my mom, she helped me a lot during the time that she was in school, and it worked out good because I couldn't even use crutches really because I had staples in my leg because of the metal plates and stuff. I have two really awesome scars on both sides of my ankle, and I have a lot of numbness still down there around my ankle. It's pretty great. Just kidding. But yeah, that was a hard time. Like it was very degrading. Couldn't get to the bathroom by myself. Couldn't get myself dressed really. Couldn't wash myself really because it was new and like I couldn't do anything with it. There was nothing, and I kept having to go back to the doctor because it was so swollen from the surgery that I kept having to go and get a smaller like splint. And that's the other thing too. They had just a half splint at first because of the staples that were in there. And so until that healed, 2 weeks later when they could take them out, I had a splint, and then after that they put a full cast, and it was horrible because I couldn't walk on it. I wasn't allowed to even put pressure on it for 12 weeks. 12 weeks. 3 months. Yeah. So by that time, there was a lot of atrophy. There was a lot of muscle loss. The leg was so thin. I'm surprised that they look the same now. Like it's weird. But that was a really hard time, and I had to go back to my mom. And then my mom and I, who again we never really get along, she was a really bad smoker, very addicted to nicotine and caffeine. It was that was her drug of choice after she got clean from alcohol. Like she supposedly got sober, and I mean she didn't drink again after that, but she had the same mentality. She had the same behaviors. She had the same thing going on. So it was like she was a dry drunk. And she went to all these meetings and she did all these reading things, and all this stuff is great for a lot of people. And I know that when I was being drug around to her things, I learned a lot of things from those meetings that helped me when I decided to finally get clean. So I'm not knocking all that stuff, but she still had the same behaviors and the same, mannerisms and stuff. So I don't think it really worked that well for her. I don't know. Oh, she was really addicted to smoking cigarettes. And me and her one day, I'm like now on crutches, but I still can't put any weight on my foot, on my leg. And I have a full cast on. And there's a wheelchair that's there, but we live in a trailer now, and the wheelchair is too wide to do anything, to get anywhere. So it just kind of sits there in the living room, and I don't go anywhere because I don't have a car, and I'm not taking the bus in my wheelchair. There's nowhere I need to go. And by this time, the girls' dad was coming over and checking on me and staying the night sometimes and like helping me out and helping out with the kids because, mind you, my third daughter she was born in July, and this happened in October. So she was just a few months old, and she needed a lot of care, and I could not do any of it because of him and my shattered ankle. But he was helping with the kids and stuff, so we were letting him come over. And of course, he did the whole sob story of like, I'm sorry, it was an accident, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. Of course, I believed it because, again, I have now 3 kids with this guy. Who else is going to, like, even take care of my kids the way their own father would take care of them, right? Like, you think that the people are supposed to love you the most, are your parents, but I should have known better because I knew my mom didn't love me, so why the hell would he love them? And he has 4 other kids, mind you. He has 4 other kids from before me because he's, again, 18 years older than me. He has a kid that is 9 months older than me, who he never saw since she was 3 months old. And then he has 3 other kids from his first wife. Yeah. But anyways, so I let him back in again, also because I physically depended on him. My mom was not really prepared for taking care of a baby, a newborn. My little sister was in school, so I didn't want her to have a lot of burden of taking care of a newborn plus the other 2. And I couldn't do it. Like, they would bring them to me and I would help out, but I couldn't get up and do anything, like, because I was on crutches. I couldn't carry a baby and be on crutches at the same time. It's kind of difficult. So one day, I didn't have any money. My mom didn't have any money. Raymond was pissed off at me. We ran out of cigarettes. Okay? We smoked cigarettes at the time too, me and Raymond. Raymond got pissed off and he left. My mom came in and said, asked me if I had a cigarette. I had cigarettes. I had 2 cigarettes left, but I wasn't going to give them to her because I had 2 cigarettes left. It's not going to happen, bro. And I told her I didn't have any. And so then it was kind of dumb, obviously, because she left and, whenever later, however much later, like half hour, whatever, I decided to smoke a cigarette. I started smoking it, of course, in my room, in the same house as my mom, because I can't get out of bed. And I opened the window and everything, but I'm thinking she's really not going to smell it. So she comes barging in there, pissed as all hell, all because I told her I didn't have cigarettes and I was smoking. And she snatched the cigarette out of my hand and she was yelling at me and, whatever. And I got up and I was going to get my crutches and I got into her face. I said, give me my cigarette back, whatever. Or at least smoke it because you're just talking and yelling and fucking shit. So either smoke it or fucking give it back to me. And so we got into it. She punches me in the face. Like, punches me in the face. I'm on crutches in like this hallway in the trailer that we lived in. Like white trash. In this little hallway, she punches me dead in my face. And I fell to the ground because I was not expecting that. And I was on one leg, unsteady, whatever. She then tells me to get the hell out of her house and to take my snotty-nosed kids with me. And I was like, yeah, how am I going to do that? And I was like, all right, take my wheelchair outside and I'll go out there. And she's like, oh, no, you're not taking the wheelchair because I signed for that wheelchair when they delivered it. And if it gets lost or damaged, then I'm responsible for it. So you can't take it. And I was like, so then how am I supposed to leave with 3 small children? Like, my oldest one could carry my baby, but she was still, like, not good at it yet, like, for long times. So, like, how was I supposed to do that? So I called the cops. I didn't have any other choice because she was threatening to hit me, and I was freaking, broken. I couldn't move. I couldn't put any pressure on my leg. So I was crippled, basically, and I was like, nah, this ain't going down. And so my kids are freaking out. My little sister's freaking out. And the cops get there, and they tell her, they say, ma'am, you have to give her wheelchair because how else is she supposed to leave? Like, essentially, like, my 2 older ones could walk and the baby could be on my lap, which is totally not safe, but, whatever. Essentially, that would be better. and then I can get on the bus and go wherever I need to go. I was going over to the girls' dad's house because I had nowhere else to go. And even though we're fighting, he wasn't gonna let me just not have any place to go with the kids. So I went to his house, and it really sucked because he lived on the second floor still, still living where we were living when he shattered my ankle in the first place. And so I had to like have him carry my wheelchair upstairs, and then I just like scooted on my butt up the stairs, like you do when you're a little kid, and that's how I would get down the stairs too. I would just plop, 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 plop. But yeah, went back to him because I had no choice. My mom was a psychopath over some fucking cigarettes, and should have learned the first time when she, slammed my head up against the metal bed frame that she would do anything to have it her way, and nobody was going to stop her, and nobody was going to get in her way. And if you did, you were going to pay the price, You're just a burden anyways, your problem. So I should have known then, but you do what you gotta do for your kids sometimes. And that's the whole thing. Like, my kids were the reason why I did most of the things I did, dangerous things that I did. I sold dope. Most of it was to, like, so I could buy huge quantities with other people's money, and freaking step on it and cut it with some shit to make it last longer and get more money so that I can get more dope so that I can do with more dope, So I sold drugs around my kids, and I stripped and, did extracurricular things at my stripping parties. And I'm not proud of it at all, but I don't regret any of it. Each decision that I made it for my kids. I think that I can't even imagine like a mother not loving their kids the way like I love my kids, because I would do anything for them, literally, like since day one. And like I don't understand how like my girl's dad, when I finally left him after I healed from my ankle, um, I finally left him and I moved to Florida. And I moved to Florida because my dad had an aunt that lived in Florida. She lived in a very small town called Paxton, Florida, and it is near Lower Alabama. It is in near Lower Alabama. So it's right below Alabama on the little lip part. Country as hell. It is home of the highest point in Florida, which is barely a molehill. From coming from somewhere from California where we have lots of like mountains, right? Florida is the most boring flats, everything. I miss the texture of life from California, but it's okay. But anyways, yeah, I moved to Florida to get away from him because after I healed from my ankle, I knew I couldn't sustain that anymore. Like I wasn't gonna do that, and I wasn't gonna keep like having my girls see that like that's how they should be treated. You know, if there's one thing I can say is that my dad was a good dad, and he did show me that real men act a certain way, and real men say certain things, and so I have that positivity from my childhood and it ingrained in me, and I didn't want my girls to not have that. I didn't want my girls to be thinking that the physical altercations that me and their dad were having were okay in any way. There's no reason for that. Either way, women shouldn't hit men, men shouldn't hit women, whatever. And I just think that like I was so scared and I was so beaten down, but being like super dependent on him for everything. Like, I couldn't even take care of my own self, much less my kids, because of this injury that he had caused. And I had time to sit and think about a plan and an action. And I got a hold of my dad, and my dad paid for me to get tickets to go and live with my aunt in Paxton. So I took all of the things that I could pack into bags that the two older ones and I could carry, along with carrying a baby. I had to think about getting toys for the kids. I had to think about getting clothes for the kids. I had to think about getting clothes for myself. I had to think about getting any personal items that, whatever. I had to think about getting, all of the important things while still keeping it to what I can carry with these three kids with me, you know. Thankfully, the girls had their little backpacks, and we packed some things in their little backpacks, and they helped carry some stuff. But I had a new, like, a couple-month-old baby. I mean, well, she was bigger by that time now, because it had been like, so she was like almost a year old, I guess, now by this time. By the time that I was fully able to walk again, after all the physical therapy and all that stuff, she was 9 months old. So it was a while. It was like it was 6 months, a good 6 months recovery time. So I had a bigger kid now, but she wasn't walking yet, and so she was heavy, and she had needed a lot of things. She needed a teething ring, she needed toys for the flight, she needed clothes for the flight just in case she threw up, she needed blankets just in case she got cold, she needed, all this stuff. Like, oh my gosh, it was horrible. Like, I checked some bags, but then I also had to carry bags because we took everything that, like, we were moving. We were moving to a whole other state, a whole other side of the country. But I knew I needed to change. I needed to stop doing drugs. I needed to stop being around foolish people. Um, there was this one time that I was slamming dope at this time, slamming meth, and I went down to this old abandoned trailer park that was down the street from us. There was like 3 or 4 trailers there still that they hadn't, like, totally demolished and taken out, and a lot of, like, the homeless people would sleep in them and whatever. But during the day, there wasn't a whole lot of people there. They weren't. It was guarded, and, like, every once in a while they would come by and, like, clear it out and stuff. So people didn't stay usually for a long time there. So we would go over there and get high. This friend of mine. We were slamming at the time, like I said, and so I didn't have anything on me, like I didn't have a rig or anything, and he knew that. And I asked him, if he had fresh needles, he did, whatever, and so I was depending on him for everything. This guy, like, we get there, and we didn't even have, like, the water, like, to put a little bit of water to melt it. We didn't have water, so the only thing he had was Mountain Dew. So we decided, hey, let's just use some Mountain Dew. And so we used a little bit of Mountain Dew, melted that shit down, and injected that shit right into my veins. Like, not only am I putting dope in my freaking self, but now I'm injecting Mountain Dew right straight to my veins. That's got to be healthy, right? Um, yeah, that was like the lowest of my low, and that was right before I left. Um, like I said, my dad bought the tickets, and I took off in the middle of the night. Well, not in the middle of the night, really early in the morning though. My daughter's godmother, she helped me too. Um, Me and her had our ups and downs, and there was a time when I really didn't like her, because in 2005, my best friend at the time, his name was Sunny, He was the one that was there for me the most when um, the girl's dad was in jail for the year. And he was the one that helped me to come out of my shell, and he helped me to be more confident about myself and helped me to realize that I could do this by myself. Like, I'm doing it by myself right now. He's not helping me in any way, and I'm still surviving. So I don't need him anymore. He was my best friend, ultimate best friend. And the girl's godmother was his girlfriend. And she was sweet. I loved her to death too. She was an amazing woman. But the only problem is that she was with someone else. And my best friend was just her play toy, like her side piece. You know, I'm not really sure the whole relationship between this girl and her guy that she lived with. Um, but I know it wasn't like a really loving relationship, obviously. Um, I kind of feel like she was with my best friend for the adventure of it. Um, he was a passionate person. He was adventurous. He was spontaneous. He was loud and obnoxious, and also gentle and sweet and kind. And so he had a lot to offer. But this other guy that she was with, he had money and he had a real job and he had his life together. And, one of the ways I met my best friend was through drugs, So, so yeah, but he helped me a lot, when the girl's dad was in jail, and he was there for my kids. This was 2005, so my oldest daughter was 5. And he was an amazing role model. And he had a daughter that he wasn't allowed to see due to whatever circumstances between him and her mom. So to have the opportunity to love on my kids, like, he loved it. He loved it so much. And yeah, so one day, he had showed some signs of like depression or whatever, but he was struggling with depression. He was taking medication for it, and he was trying to get clean, and like he was trying to work things out with his daughter's mom, so that way he could have more time with her and stuff. And he was really trying to get his life together. And my girl's dad got out of jail, and I stopped going over there. Like, I was over there almost every day. Almost every day I was over there, for like the whole day. Like, and sometimes I would stay the night with my kids and stuff. And he had a roommate named Renzo, and he was great, and I loved him too. And it was just fantastic having him around. And so the girl's dad gets out. I stopped going over there. Um, he had a wall in his room, and it was full of pictures of like everybody that he ever loved, like him and someone else. And they were like actual pictures, the printed pictures, and they were just stuck on his wall. And like, he had my girl's handprints on his wall um, in pink paint, because they wanted to do pink for him. And he had this beautiful mural of all these people that he loved. And he started taking things down off of that wall. He painted over my daughter's handprints, um, and I didn't really know why. Like, I didn't know what was happening. He said that he was just thinking of change and stuff, and he was whatever. And like, I get it, like, whatever. But things started, like, he started giving things away. I kept noticing that things that were important to him were like missing every time I go see him, which wasn't very often anymore this time. Um, and so I stopped also talking to his girlfriend, my girl's godmother, because we were only really friends through him. You know, she and I hung out a lot, and I liked her and stuff, but I had only ever saw her with him. And so one day he asked me to come over, and I told him that I was going to go do laundry. I had to do laundry, and um, he said, "Well, why don't you bring your laundry down here to the laundromat down here, and I'll meet you there." And I told him I don't have money for the bus to get all the way to your house and to do laundry, so I can't, have to do laundry down here. Can you come meet me? And he's like, "No, I really don't want to go over there." And I was like, "Well, I got to do laundry." And he's like, "Well, please, can you just maybe, just try to get over here?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. Like, damn." So I let it go, and whatever. The very next day, I got a call from my girl's godmother that he had committed suicide. And that she's the one that found his body. It was really a lot of bad feelings, like, especially because he was begging me to come see him just that day, you know? And what if I had gone to see him? What if I had just gone to see him? Would it have been different? Probably not. Just probably would have postponed it, you know? Um, but I felt a lot of survivor's guilt for a long time. Um, and it really sucked because me and his ex and my girl's godmother, his girlfriend, the three of us got together and we found out that like he had showed signs to her and he showed signs to her and he showed signs to me. And if we had only talked to each other, um, we would have probably, figured it out, right? Because we saw the signs. But I guess, in a way, your hindsight's 2020, right? Even if we had talked, maybe, we wouldn't have figured it out. Um, but the three of us cleaned his apartment up, um, and he had written on the wall with red Sharpie that he just loved her and she would never love him as much as he loved her. So there was no reason to stay. And that was his suicide note. And so that's why I was mad at her for a long time. I love her to death now, though. I still talk to her all these years later. Like the only person I talk to from back there, really. Um, love her to death now, but sometimes I kind of feel like she was the reason why I lost my best friend. Suicide sucks. Suicide sucks a lot. And he had taken a lot of pills, a bunch of pills, and he drank liquor with it, and that's how he took his life. And like during the process of him dying, he vomited several times, and you know, cleaning up the aftermath of your best friend taking his life, like that changes you a lot, you know. It played into the whole "you're the problem, you're not good enough, you're never going to be good enough" mentality that I already had. Played into that a lot, and it was it was a that was a hard time. Um, right after that is when I shattered my ankle. And that whole process began. So I went to Florida and I started a new life with my kids, and I was going to be super independent and I was going to live the country lifestyle, right? So I get to my aunt's house, who I've never met before in my whole life. And I've spoken to her on the phone like twice. Get to her house. She has 2 rooms, one for the 2 girls, the 2 oldest ones, and then me and like was in the room, in the one room. And so I didn't, it was shortly after um, we moved in that I realized that my aunt was the most racist person I'd ever met. And mind you, my oldest daughter's half black. My 2 beautiful daughters in the middle are half Mexican, and one of them is very brown. And so she made it very clear that she was racist. And so we felt really uncomfortable there, obviously. She made it super hard for me there at all. And it sucked because the only job I could get was at the Tom Thumb, because mind you, it was in the middle of the country. And um, there were like, horses and crickets and all this stuff going on. The country. I'd never been in the country before. And coming from LA. And so it was hard for us at first to get used to all that. And it was crazy. And the only job I could get was at a Tom Thumb, which is a gas station. And like the only shift I could get was night shift. So I had to depend on my aunt to watch my kids because they would be in school during the day, like the 2 oldest ones, anyways. And I would have the baby all day. And then they would get home. I would settle them, eat dinner really quick with them, and then go to work. And my aunt would have to put them to bed. She would have to bathe them and get them ready for school, or get them ready for bed so they could get ready for school. And so it was a really hard time dealing with my racist aunt that, made it known that she did not like my spick children. Um, and that made things really difficult. But as soon as I could, I got out of there, went and lived with my cousin for a while. She was not racist like my aunt, thankfully. She didn't get that gene. Um, but it was interesting. She was just getting a divorce. Um, and she had a baby, and so I had my 3 kids, and so it was a good mix for a while. We did that for a while, and we helped each other out, and then she decided to move on, but I stayed in the house, and I lived there for a while by myself. It was good. Um, Shortly after that, I lost my job at Tom Thumb over some dumb shit, and I started working at a sewing factory for military uniforms. And that was a really fun job, actually. I was the one that inspected everything at the end, so I didn't sew anything, but I just inspected all of the seams, the important seams, and make sure that they were done correctly, and snip off all the extra, threads and stuff, the extra long threads at the end or whatever. And but it was a good job because there was a lot of old ladies there, and I learned a lot from them. And it was a fun job. It was hard work because I stood up all day for 8 hours a day. I stood there, um, and I could listen to music, but it was not like it is now. It was not as easy. I had an iPod, and I had to charge it for a certain amount of time, and it would die like almost. It wouldn't only play. It would only play like 6 hours or something like that, so it wouldn't go through my whole shift, and it sucked. Struggle was real, and they didn't play music over the thing or whatever. All you hear is sewing machines. But anyways, I lost my job there, so I quickly got a job at the sewing factory, and it sucked though because I lived so close to the Alabama Florida state line that my job was in Alabama and I lived in Florida, and it was actually going to be a pretty good job. Like, it wasn't like a fast food job where you get paid minimum wage. I was getting paid a little bit more than minimum wage, and so it was going to be good for us. And I didn't have any support because my aunt and I got into a fight because of my spick children, and I haven't talked to her since. My cousin had already moved away. She moved to Dothan, which is in Alabama as well. and I didn't really have anybody. So I called my mom to come help me. Um, but it worked out. She helped me. It was good. It was a it was definitely a trial and error type thing, but it was good. She helped me for a little while. I ended up meeting the guy that my son's father, um, my cousin's best friend, had this friend from work, and she introduced me to him. I actually went to this party that she was having. My cousin's friend was having. She was going away to the Air Force, so I was invited to this party. Last minute, my cousin couldn't go, but she said, "Just go, and your mom was still going to watch the kids. She was going to watch the kids regardless, so just go by yourself." And I was like, all right, I do deserve to get out, whatever. So I drove like an hour and a half to where this girl lived, to go to this party, and I was going to spend the night at her house, and it was going to be great. And so yeah, I get there and I meet her, and at her house we walk to the bar because it was close by, which is great because then we could drink a little bit more and not have to worry about driving home. And we're sitting there, and she's like, "We're gonna meet a bunch of people at this bar, and then we're gonna go somewhere else." And I was like, "All right, cool." So we are sitting there, we're chilling, we're talking, we have a drink. This guy walks in, like we're on the outside part, so he walks actually out, but he walks out into the outside area, and she's like, "Oh my god," and she calls his name, and like I'm like, "That's your friend? What?" I thought he was like so cute and so fly, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." So she introduces me, and I was like, "Damn, okay." And then her boyfriend comes, and it was so funny because this guy was hitting on me. He was this scrawny little like country boy, trying to hit on me, and I was not into it at all. I was not a fan, and like he was missing some teeth, kind of country boy, you know what I mean? And so I wasn't a fan, and he kept saying, "Hey, my name is Craig," with a C, and like he was super drunk and super whatever, and like I kept trying to be nice, or but then I finally was like, "No, like leave me alone." So then I got my friend's friend, and I was like, "Hey, just pretend you're with me and like tell him to buzz off or whatever," and so he did, and then like I was all up on him after that, and I just never stopped being all up on him. And so 2 weeks later, I actually was still talking to this guy. Um, like I told him my whole life story that night. It was weird. Like I opened up to him. He had a very trusting face, and he ended up spending the night with me that night. And then he even actually came back to my house, which was like an hour and a half away, to meet my kids and my mom, um, like that weekend. But 2 weeks later, I was getting ready to leave to go live with my mom and my sister in Arkansas, because I really needed her help with the kids. I couldn't do it anymore, and I was waiting until school ended so that way my kids could finish the school. So that's what we were doing. And so 2 weeks later I was supposed to leave, but something happened and money got stolen, and people are liars, and drama ensued, and blah blah blah. We had to postpone us leaving, but my lease was up and I had nowhere to go. So I told him my sob story, and he's like, "Well, just come stay with me for a little bit until you guys can leave, and you can just leave from here." And I was like, "You're gonna let me, my mom, my kids just move in?" And he's like, "Yeah, for temporary, it's whatever." And I said, "All right, well, we can do this. Will stay there for at the month at the most, because that's when my mom got her next like disability check, and we would have enough money to go ahead and leave then. And we were gonna rent a truck, take all our stuff, and go." And he had this house that he had with his ex-wife, and he was trying to get divorced at the time. He was separated, and they were working on their divorce. She had taken all of his furniture, everything, and I was actually gonna have to leave a lot of my furniture because the size truck I was able to afford to rent like wasn't gonna get all my stuff. And so I was like, "Well, at the very least, like you could have it." You can have my stuff, my furniture. So I moved like all my stuff to his house. Plus, my lease was up anyways, and that's what we were doing, anyways. But it was convenient that he didn't have anything except a bed, and I had everything but a bed, and so it went together really well. And 2 weeks later, my mom left, and I didn't. And 9 months later, approximately, I had my son. But that's how I met my husband, my first husband, my ex-husband. It's now my ex-husband. Um, we had a hard relationship. There was a lot of mental abuse for almost 13 years. Being involved with a narcissist is stupid, and it's whatever. It's whatever anyone tells you it is, because it just sucks. It's all just crap. And put up with that for a long time. And he was always traveling. He was always gone. I was a single mom of 4 kids now, all the time. He did a lot of things that still mess with my head today. Unlearning those behaviors and those trauma responses are so freaking hard, but they're so important. So keep it up if you're doing it, and I'm proud of you. Yeah, it was a long time of just mental abuse, and I thought it was better, at least because I wasn't getting my ass beat anymore. But I didn't realize how much mental instability he caused until I he lost our house. We had a house down here. We moved to Tampa, away from all of everything. We moved to Tampa from Shalimar, Florida, which is where we met and where he lived, near Eglin Air Force Base. And that was where our home was. That was where our kids were raised. That's the place that I knew people, and I had a family there. But he was always traveling, so he got a job in Tampa, just being at MacDill Air Force Base as a contractor. And it was rough at first. The kids were all like, all over the place. It was hard for them to adjust to a whole new place, no friends and no nothing. And Serenity started high school for the first time when we first moved here, and it was really hard. But we had a nice house. We had each other, and like we were gonna make it. And he wasn't gonna travel anymore. He was gonna be home. So we were gonna have a family, right? It wasn't even 2 years before he started traveling again, and it was only like a week at a time, and then it would only be like once a month, once every couple months or whatever, instead of like every week, which is what it had been before. And I didn't like it at all. But he said it was just, part of the raise that he just got. Like, it was part of the promotion that he got. Now, he got this promotion. It's great. And we're making more money, but he does have to travel a little bit. But it's fine. We got this. We did longer. I went, months without seeing him. And then, the other months, only seeing him on the weekends, So we had done this before. But I really got tired of it because we moved away from everything that we knew. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any people here. I didn't have any help with the kids because I didn't know anybody. And now I'm really stuck doing this all by myself, but I have to have a full-time job too. So I was done. I was so tired of him just leaving us all the time. I have a lot of abandonment issues, starting from, my mom way back when. So he just kept leaving me to do it all. Every single doctor's appointment, every single time they needed us to pick them up from school, every time they had homework needs, every time they wanted to eat dinner, all of these things I was always in control of all the time. And he was never there. And then when he was there, it was for a short time. So Like, I would try to make it fun for him. Like, we would go and do fun things. So he became the fun, cool dad, and I was left with, being the strict mom, but it's fine, whatever. Um, we lived here for like 5 years in Tampa in our beautiful home before he lost it. He didn't pay the HOA fees for over a year. They took us to court and they won our house. And then right after that, he told me that his job is offering him to go to Iraq for a year or for 4 months and make a lot of money, stack a lot of bread, and he's going to do it because we're losing the house. And I say, okay, I get that. 4 months isn't bad. We can handle that. We need the money because you lost our house. Then I found out that from my friend, actually, she said, "Hey, me and her worked together at also, and that's how we met." She came to me at work. She's like, "Hey, has your husband talked to you about how long he's going to be gone for?" And I said, "Yeah, it's like 4 months. He'll be home in no time." And she said, "Girl, he told me that he was going for a year." And I was like, "What?" So I walked right outside and called him, and I was like, "Bro, like, are you gonna be gone for 4 months?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, how long are you gonna be gone for?" And he said, "The contract's for a year." And I was devastated, because not only did he know and not tell me, but he told this bitch, like, what? And I was pissed, and I couldn't do a year. Like, we've just lost our house and you're leaving. Like, wow, okay. Um, so we got the eviction, or the beginning of the court battle to lose the house. It was in August. He decided in September that he was leaving to go to Iraq for a year. October 29th, 2020, he left. November 1st, 2020, we went to court and we lost our house. And I was all alone with the 4 kids. And so, once again, I was stuck doing everything by myself. He kept telling me, "Don't worry, we're gonna fight this. I'm not gonna let them take our house. We're gonna get this overruled." He got a lawyer involved. He kept telling me, "Just leave everything it is. Don't worry about it. We're gonna keep our house. It's not a big deal." And a part of me really wanted me to believe it. Really wanted to believe him, because that's what I wanted ultimately. That's obviously what I wanted. But I knew that couldn't happen. So I was smart. I did get a storage shed or a storage unit, and started putting all the stuff that we don't use every day in there. Because we had this 4-bedroom house with 4 kids and like all this stuff. Like, we had built a house there, built a life there. Shit accumulates, man. So I remember in December, things were getting really hard because I knew ultimately that I was going to lose my house, and I didn't know where I was going to go with my kids. I didn't have any place to go. I was trying to figure it out, and I was trying to get backup plans and stuff like that. But I have 4 kids, or 3 kids at that time, because my oldest one wasn't living there. Who the hell is going to take us? Who the hell has room for all of us? And then I started deciding, like, okay, this kid is going to stay with this friend, and this kid is going to stay with this friend, so that way you guys can still get to school, and whatever. And like, I'm freaking out. And all the time, my husband's in Iraq just telling me to calm down. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. They're not going to take the house. I'm not going to let them take the house. So there was this girl at work that, like, she was just bugging out all the time on me. Like, she would tell on me all the time, like, tell my boss I was on the phone, or oh my gosh, she sent a whatever, whatever. And so this girl that was my friend at work, she got her nipples pierced. She sent me a picture of her, these nipples that were pierced of hers. So she sent me just this, right? Just this. And I opened the picture in my text message, and this girl, this ratchet girl, saw over my shoulder that I was looking at a picture of breast, you know. So then she goes and tells my boss that she felt sexually harassed when she saw that I was looking at that at work. So I knew I was gonna get fired because they have a no sexual harassment like policy that's like strict. So I knew I was gonna get fired. They sent me home that day, and she said, "I'm gonna need to talk to the big boss, and we'll contact you." And I was like, "All right, cool, bet." So this girl made me so mad because I just lost my job. So I lost my mind in that moment, and I took my keys and I ran it all the way across the back of her car, and I fucked her car up. Like, it was bad. And I was so down about it. And then I went home about my business. And later that day, I got a call from my boss, and they found out, of course, about it when they left. And she tells me, she goes, "Is there anything that you want to tell me before I pull the camera footage?" And I was like, "Fuck." Not only did I do that shit, but I did it in the camera footage zone. Like, what? So of course I confessed because I'm a big girl now, and lost my job. Because not only did I sexually harass her, but I also damaged her property. She could have pressed charges on me for that, but thankfully I just lost my job, and whatever, she was satisfied with that. So I lost my house. My husband left to go to Iraq. Lost my fucking mind. Lost my job. Now we're in December. The day, I think it was December 29th that day, um, sheriff came to the door and gave us the notice that we had 4 days to get out. He said, "I'm really sorry, the timing, being the holidays and everything," but he said that the timings actually worked out good because I guess the first was on a Monday that year, and he said it gives you a whole nother day to get out. So you have 3 days, but nobody's going to come on the fourth day because it's a holiday. And I was like, "I appreciate that." Now, you know, he did me a solid. So 4 days, we busted our butts. It was during winter break, so the kids were home. We busted our butts just moving whatever my car could fit, full of boxes and stuff. Like, I have a big SUV, so it fit a lot, but my oldest daughter and her boyfriend that now live with me, they helped me out a lot, and we got it done. And the whole time, again, my ex-husband is just sitting in Iraq saying, "Don't worry, I'm going to fight this. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And I was like, "No, I don't have a place to live in 4 days." And my main goal was getting the stuff out of the house so that we didn't lose anything. Um, but I was still trying to figure out where we were going to live, where we were going to go. I couldn't find a rental in that fast because you have to get approved and blah, 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 all this stuff. And he said, "No, we're going to buy another house. We're going to buy another house. So we're just going to figure it out, you know." And so we ended up staying in Airbnb. We actually found an Airbnb that was quite expensive, but you know, it worked out. He was making this big Iraq money, so it worked out. The kids went back to school, and I was still losing my mind, like whatever. But anyways, during all of this process, like me and him we decided to get divorced, so we're divorced now, thank God. He's been a real jerk to me. But in this process of me getting divorced, I've grown so much and I've learned so much about myself. And looking back at all of my things that have happened to me in my past, they have taught me humanity. They've taught me humility. They've taught me vulnerability. They've taught me how to love and how to treat other people, because my whole life I've learned that I don't like being treated like shit. I don't like being made feel small, and it's not okay to treat people like that. So I encourage my kids to always speak love, always build each other up. I'm always trying to build them up, and tell them that they're the best at everything, because they are. They're the best things. That there's a lot of people that say the only reason why I'm alive is because of my children, and like that's facts. It's facts. The divorce was hard on me in a lot of ways, because he decided that he didn't have a court order, so he didn't have to pay child support. I got a job pretty quickly, but my rent was my salary for the month. Um, I made I made just enough to pay the rent, and that wasn't including the electric, the cable for the internet for them to be able to study, for food, for any clothing or school supplies or anything like that. So I ended up having to get another job. I started doing a cleaning business. Started with my friends. Started cleaning their house, and I still clean their houses now. And started doing that on the weekends. And I started being able to have cash on hand, and it was great. And so like I said, I still do that now. But I was still lacking. My daughter moved in with me, helped pay the bills, and that's a whole fun thing. There's a lot of strife and stuff that goes on in my house, but for the most part, like I try to just make it through the day with them. Like we fight like cats and dogs, but we love each other at the same time. And yeah, it's a struggle, but I ended up getting a third job too. So I was doing surgical coordinating during the day, Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:30, then 5 to 9. I would go to a doctor's office and clean the doctor's office after hours. Do that Monday through Friday from 5 to 9. And then on the weekends, I was cleaning houses. I was never seeing my kids, but my kids always had food. They always had their school supplies. They always had money to do the fun things that they need to do at school or for after school stuff. Like my kids aren't social, but they do stuff. And busting my ass for my kids. I'm a survivor, and I want them to see that you don't have to depend on nobody, and you can make it through whatever. Like all of the tough times, all of the sad times, everything is just seasons that ebb and flow. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and you got to keep going. And I try to always encourage them to keep going no matter what. And now I don't work my night job, but I am moving up in my company. I moved up a little bit, and I have a prospect of something else new. But it's good. Life is good now. I have grown to love myself, and that's made me an amazing mother. And it's so nice to be away from an abusive narcissist that treats you like crap. And like now that I've seen that I'm not a burden, that I'm not the problem, that I'm not the one that is fault it is, like it makes my whole life a different way. And now that I'm clean from drugs and all of that stuff, I can like say that life is good. Life is good, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I wouldn't trade my scars, my literal scars, and my emotional scars for any of it, because it made me who I am today. And I'm a pretty awesome mom today. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks.